Namaskar, I am Dr. Mithilesh Nayan Bhatt, Assistant Professor of Law at Sardar Patel University of Police, Security and Criminal Justice, Jodhpur. I welcome you in EPG Pathshala program. Today's module name is Situational Crime Prevention, Tertiary Prevention and Crime Prevention through Environmental Design, that is CPTED. Now, what are the learning outcome of this module? First one is to make the learners understand the various concepts of crime prevention. Second one is to make the learners understand various methods of crime prevention. Third one is to make the learners understand the terminology of tertiary prevention with respect to crime prevention. And last one is to make the learners understand the concept of crime prevention through environmental design, that is CPTED. Now start with the introduction. As we all know and agreed that crime affects all of us. It can endanger our personal safety, damages public and private property, creates fear and lower our quality of life. Today, crime prevention is a concept that is extremely widespread. The view that crime prevention is the most important means of combating crime is coming very much into the picture in studies as well as in debates on crime. As we are aware, India is a multi-ethnic, polynormative, multi-religious and plural society with geographical, social and anthropological variations, demographic, industrial, poverty, unemployment, migration, transport and communication dynamism and a host of other factors tend to make the Indian society crime sensitive and crime prone. Police and community partnership creates an opportunity to work together to improve the safety of our community. We do this by sharing information about neighborhood crime issues and discussing ideas and tips on how to solve and prevent them. The safety of our community is a shared responsibility and crime prevention is everybody's duty. Now, what is the crime prevention? Effective crime prevention is any action that causes a reduction in the level of criminal activity and the resulting harm or in the number of criminal offenders and their victims, where the focus is on causes of crime rather than its effect, and the goal is to significantly reduce or eliminate the factors that can lead crime. Crime prevention can be described in terms of three stages or levels. First, preliminary, second, secondary and third one is tertiary prevention. Primary crime prevention. It is directed at stopping the problem before it happens. This could involve reducing the opportunities for crime and strengthening community and social structure. Primary prevention focuses on social and situational factors. Social crime prevention addresses factors that influence an individual's likelihood of committing a crime, such as poverty and unemployment, poor health and low educational performance. Example of prevention include school-based program, for example Truancy initiative, as well as community-based program like local resident action group which promote shared community ownership and guardianship. Situational prevention addresses the environment, for example the design of building and landscape and the products we purchases. Secondary crime prevention seeks to change people, typically those at high risk of embarking on a criminal career. The focuses can be on rapid and effective early intervention like youth programs and high risk neighborhoods, for example neighborhood dispute centers. Tertiary crime prevention focuses on the operation of the criminal justice system and deals with offending after it has happened. The primary focus is on intervention in the lives of known offenders in an attempt to prevent them reoffending. Examples include community-based sanction and treatment intervention. There are many refinements and variations on this simple model for crime prevention. The three levels of prevention are sometimes divided into four subcategories, which are situational, developmental and early intervention strategies, community development initiative and criminal justice. Crime prevention is a multi-sectorial, multidisciplinary and integrated endeavor. The mission of crime prevention is to reduce the opportunity for crime and fear it produces by developing police community partnerships to enhance safety and improve the quality of life. The principles of crime prevention need to be taken care as crime prevention is everyone's business, it is more than security, a responsibility of all levels of governmental linked with solving social problem, and it is cost effective. Crime prevention requires a central position in law enforcement, cooperation by all elements of the community, education tailoring to local needs and condition and continual testing and improvement. Crime prevention improves the quality of life for every community and its residents. Now, need of crime prevention. The need of address crime prevention is as old as civilization itself, and while we have always struggled with whether to punish or rehabilitate criminal activity, there has never been any question that the best alternative to illegal behavior is prevention. The prevention as a basis for policing was first formulated in England with the passage of the Metropolitan Police Act of 1829. Prevention was the ultimate goal of the organized police force and the prevention philosophy translated into practice. Thus, English law enforcement officials choose not to arm themselves. Armament was viewed as a reaction to crime, not a way to prevent it. The prevention tradition established by Robert Peel in England was overshadowed by a growing emphasis on investigation, arrest and punishment. This was likely due to the growing impact of criminal activity. Situational crime prevention has been defined as the use of measures directed at highly specific forms of crime which involve the management, design or manipulation of the immediate environment in as systematic and permanent as way as possible. It is sometimes referred to as primary prevention or opportunity reduction. Situational approaches to crime prevention is rational choice theory as its basis. It rests on the assumption that offenders freely and actively choose to commit crimes, that the decision to commit the crime is made in response to the immediate circumstances and the immediate situation in which an offense is contemplated. And the motivation to offend is not constant or beyond control, that is dependent on a calculation of cost and rewards rather than being the result of inheriting or acquiring a disposition to offend. Tertiary crime prevention. Tertiary crime prevention focuses on the operation of the criminal justice system and deals with offending after it has happened. The primary focus is on intervening in the lives of known offenders in an attempt to prevent them from re-offending either through periods of recarceration, community-based sanction or monitoring during periods of probation. Criminal justice system responses also seeks to deter other potential offenders in the community by making an example of the convicted offender and educating the community concerning the penalties associated with the crime. Applying the aims of judicial punishment to offenders, there are seven generally recognized objectives of judicial punishment: retribution, proportionality, denunciation, incapacitation, deterrence, rehabilitation and restitution. First one is retribution. Retribution is the justification for punishment based upon the idea of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. This of course raises the problem of how we can match the seriousness of a offense or its moral blameworth with the range of available sanction. Now, proportionality. The modern form of retribution is known as just desert or proportionality in punishment. This simply means that the severity of punishment should be the commensurate with the seriousness of the wrong. The next one is denunciation. Denunciation involves the imposition of sanction in order to express the public abhorrence of the crime committed. It acts as a symbolic statement that society considers a particular crime as being sufficiently serious to warrant punishment and that society will not tolerate the law-breaking conduct of the offender. Now next one is incapacitation. Incapacitation simply means that because the offender is isolated from the society, generally through the imprisonment, he or she will be prevented from committing further crimes of the same or similar nature while in isolation. The next one is deterrence. Deterrence can take two forms which were consciously summarized by Caesars in 1964, where punishment aims to dissuade the criminal from doing fresh harm to his compatriots, known as special deterrence, and to keep other people from doing the same, and known as general deterrence. The next one is rehabilitation. Rehabilitation has gone through periods of support and criticism throughout the history as an objective of punishment, but still remains one of the main purpose relied by the courts in sentencing offenders. Prisoners see their role as being, amongst other things, places which provide opportunities for rehabilitation by encouraging offenders to be productive, law-abiding citizens. They seek to achieve this aim by challenging the offense-related behavior, encouraging responsibility for one's action, promoting self-esteem, and developing educational, social, and living skills. The next one is restitution. Restitution aims to compensate the victim for the injury caused by the criminal act. The main problem with the restitution is that offenders rarely have the means available to them to pay compensation. Offender will have spent proceeds of their crimes or sometimes transfer funds to other or to overseas location, making it unavailable for the settlement of compensation order. Now, crime prevention through environmental design, shortly known as a CPTED. Crime against people and against property occur within the urban environments of cities and towns. The fundamental idea of CPTED is that it is possible to use knowledge and creativity to design those built environments in ways that lessen or prevent the incidence of such crime. That knowledge has been evolving over recent decades based on experience and research. It would be possible to reduce assaults on people and property by taking a medieval fortress approach, making buildings impregnable and locking everything and everyone away behind high walls. We might also support that with the lots of security cameras and lots of guards. However, this approach still does not set out to ensure the safety of this public realm, in particular that network of streets, paths and places that connects these fortresses. Or we could put great numbers of guards into the public realm and inevitably diverting resources from other things. There are three main concepts behind the theory of CPTED. Perhaps the most important is that crimes against people and property are less likely to occur if other people are around. The presence of other people, for example, provides them with an opportunity, prevent a crime, intervene in a crime that has started and limit its extent, help apprehend the criminal, summon help from others and report the crime and act as an subsequent witnesses. Whether people choose on the moment to do any of these things is another significant matter. We do know, however, that the direct or indirect presence of other people, especially lots of other peoples, both discourages the offender and increase people's sense of security, which in turn encourages more people to use this space. Not only it is good to have other people around, it is also important that people in adjoining buildings and spaces are able to see what is happening. Even if they are too far away to intervene directly, they at least are in the position to respond with other help. These two concepts of having lots of people around by direct presence and others who are able to see as well as by indirect presence combine in the idea of passive surveillance. This is not active surveillance provided by guards and monitored surveillance cameras, but casual surveillance by members of the community as they go about their daily lives. Now, the third concept relating specifically to personal safety is that Where possible, it is important to give people safe choices about where to be and how to anticipate and respond to problem. For example, can they change routes if one seems unsafe? These concepts then should influence the design of our town and cities. We design and manage our built environments to encourage the legitimate use by lots of people of the public parts of them, and to allow other outside those people places see what is the happening in those places and near other buildings. Then to avoid hidden places and to encourage those seeing something happening to care and to act. The four principles of CPTED are natural surveillance, natural access control, territorial reinforcement and maintenance, and management. These are strong overlaps and synergies among the four CPTED principles. These have been identified separately for convenience and clarity of understanding. In practice, it may be useful to see all four principles as different facets of a signal technique for dealing with the security of the physical environment. In respect to the first two principles, the term natural refers to deriving surveillance and access control result as a byproduct of normal and routine use of the environment. Now, natural surveillance. The fundamental premise is that criminals do not wish to be observed. Surveillance or the planning of legitimate eyes on the street increases the perceived risk to offenders. This may also increase the actual risk to offenders if those observing are willing to act when potentially threatening situations develop. So, the primary aim of surveillance is not to keep intruders out, although it may have that effect, but rather to keep intruders under observations. Natural surveillance can be achieved by a number of techniques. The flow of activities can be channeled to put more people observer near a potential crime area. Window lighting and the removal of obstructions can be placed to improve sight line from within buildings. Now, natural access control. Natural access control relies on doors, fences, shrubs and other physical elements to keep unauthorized person out of a particular place if they do not have a legitimate reasons for being there. In its most elementary form, access control can be achieved in individual dwelling or commercial establishment by the use of adequate locks, doors and window barriers. However, when one moves beyond private property to public or semi-public spaces, the application of access control needs more care. Properly located entrances, exits, fencing, landscaping and lighting can subtly direct both foot and vehicular traffic in ways that decreases criminal opportunities. Access control can be as simple as locating a front office to a warehouse. While access control is more difficult on a street and areas that are entirely open to public use, there are other techniques for controlling access in these circumstances. For example, non-physical or psychological barriers can be used to achieve the objective of access control. These barriers may appear in the form of sign, paving textures, nature strips or anything that announces the integrity and uniqueness of an area. The idea behind psychological barrier is that if a target seems strange or difficult, it may also be unattractive to potential criminals, because any strategy that fosters access control is also likely to impede movement. Careful consideration should be given to access control strategies. Such strategies may limit the opportunity for crimes but should not hinder the mobility of potential victims. Now, the next one is territorial reinforcement. People naturally protect a territory that they feel is their own and have a certain respect for the territory of others. Clear boundaries between public and private areas achieved by using physical elements such as fences, pavement treatment, art signs, good maintenance and landscaping are ways to express ownership. Identifying intruders is much easier in such well-defined spaces. Territorial reinforcements can be seen to work when a space by its clear legibility, transparency and directness discourages potential offenders because of users' familiarity with each other and the surroundings. Maintenance and management. This is related to the neighborhood sense of pride of place and territorial reinforcement. The more dilapidated area, the more likely is to attract unwanted activities. The maintenance and the image of an area can have a major impact on whether it will become targeted. Another extension of the concept is that territorial concern, social cohesion and a general sense of security can be reinforced through the development of the identity and image of a community. This approach can improve not only the image of the population as of itself and its domain, but also the projection of that image to others. With clear spatial definitions such as the subdivision of space into different degree of public, semi-public or private areas and the raising of standard and expectation, the level of social estrangement would decline. This is known to be related to reduction in opportunities for aberrant or criminal behavior such as vandalism. Maintenance and management need to be considered at the design stage, as the selection of material and finishes will impact on the type of maintenance regimes that can be sustained over time. For example, plant materials should be selected for its size at maturity to avoid blocking of sight lines. Now, to conclude all the things, crime is a multifaceted problem. There is no easy fix. Research and experience have, however, provided us with insight into the nature of crime which can help us fight back. Sanctions against criminals are failing to deter increasing number of offenders, and the legal and correctional system are groaning under the weight of business. Growing evidence about the role of opportunity in crime has encouraged the development of some new opportunity theories, including routine activity theory and the rational choices perspective. The latter in particular has provided the theoretical basis of situational crime prevention, which has now accumulated a solid record of crime reduction achieved in many different contexts. There is no doubt that crime prevention through environmental design will be increasingly be used to help protect society from crimes. Indeed, it is already an integral part of crime control policy in several countries. For the individual householders, situational crime prevention is the most effective approach to protecting him or herself from victimization and fear, but this approach has much wider scope. It can be employed by housing authorities to make public housing more secure, by transport authorities to cut down graffiti and vandalism on trains and buses, by education departments trying to battle school arsonists. Those who oppose situational crime prevention usually do so on the grounds that one person's security is simply another person's vulnerability. It is highly unlikely that all thwarted criminals will go on to commit a crime in all cases. Therefore, situational crime prevention cuts the crime rate and is to be recommended on that basis. And also displacement can be fought if it occurs by concentrating crime prevention efforts where they are obviously needed most among those least likely to be able to defend themselves, the elderly, those inner city low income areas and tenants in public housing. The task in inner city areas where people usually have an accurate picture of the extent of local crime is to convince them they can protect themselves from crime through their own efforts. In areas where crime rates are low but fear of crime is high, the message has to be communicated that crime is not out of control but that sensible measures must be maintained for the continued well-being of the community. Thank you.